Hi friends, this is Raphael from Ohio Tropics and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to talk about my absolute favorite line of Coleus. You will not want to miss this. I have 3 wonderful reasons why you should grow this line of Coleus in your own garden. Stay tuned. In the past couple years or more, actually, I've grown several different varieties of the ColorBlaze line from Proven Winners. And these are absolutely spectacular plants for 3 reasons. First, I'm going to show you many of the varieties in that line that I've grown in my own garden so you can see the true potential of these plants. And then, second of all, I'm going to talk to you about how you can grow gorgeous, massive Coleus in your own garden. This one is a variety in the ColorBlaze line called Strawberry Drop, and it's actually a trailing variety. Did you know that trailing varieties of Coleus actually existed? I didn't know that until I started growing this particular line. This one's Strawberry Drop. There's also another variety called Chocolate Drop, which looks very similar, except instead of the pinkish areas in the middle of the leaf, it's more of a chocolatey brown. So here's another example of the ColorBlaze Strawberry Drop that I have growing at the base of these 2 giant alocasias, and it just forms a lovely trailing plant that spills over the edge, and these will actually get quite a bit bigger, and by the end of the summer they're going to probably reach the ground. And this is one that did reach the ground last year by the end of the summer. And this is ColorBlaze Chocolate Drop that I grew last year. Here is a stunning smaller Coleus that I'm growing this year in my garden. This is ColorBlaze Mini Me Watermelon. The color is absolutely stunning, and I just love this. I actually have this growing in a outdoor fireplace that we don't really use, so this is my fire. And these are ColorBlaze Golden Dreams that I grew last year, and this giant specimen of Golden Dreams. This is ColorBlaze Wicked Witch and ColorBlaze Radiculus. Most of us think of Coleus as plants only for the shade, but the ColorBlaze line has actually been developed to grow in full sun or full shade. This is one remarkable reason why I love this line. Number 2, the ColorBlaze line of Coleus is also very, very, very slow to flower. It is late August right now on this particular plant. There isn't one flower on this plant. So if your plant flowers and goes to seed, it'll take energy away from growing its gorgeous leaves, and that's why we grow them. We don't grow them for the flowers. If you'd like more details, I've also written a blog post on flowering Coleus and what you can do to manage that. Check out the link for that blog post in the description of the video for more details. And the third reason why I love the ColorBlaze line of plants is because they will branch out on their own. There's no reason that you need to pinch the plants or trim the tips of the plants off in order to encourage branching. And in fact, on this particular plant, I put 3 small plants in this pot at the beginning of the season. I did not pinch or trim them at all. They're very freely branching. So these are the 3 reasons why I love these plants. So this one is ColorBlaze Golden Dreams, and it is a monster. Take a look at how big this plant has gotten. And like I mentioned, the ColorBlaze line does well in sun or shade. So here is an example on a plant that is growing in a lot more sun. Take a look at this ColorBlaze Golden Dreams. Look how beautiful the center of the leaves are and how red they are. Now, let's go to this other plant. This side gets more sun, but on this end, take a look at this. This is a much shadier corner, and you can see that there's not nearly as much red in the leaves. You can definitely still grow these plants in shade, but you'll get much better coloration if you can give it at least a few hours of direct sun. Here's another one of my ColorBlaze Golden Dreams. And as you can see, this one gets quite a bit of sun. So this actually gets minimum at least half a day sun. Last year, I grew them in a location that received full sun. The ColorBlaze line was actually developed in the University of Florida, and they're bred to do well in full sun or even full shade. But like I mentioned, you'll get the best coloration if you get a little bit of sun. So Coleus are no longer just boring shade plants. You can grow these literally anywhere in your garden. Now, one thing to be very aware of when you're growing Coleus is that they come in a huge variety of sizes. There are some, that barely get a few inches tall, and then there are ones that get quite monstrous, especially if you grow them in pots. In the description of the video below, I've included a link to my blog post where I describe all of the varieties of Coleus in the ColorBlaze line, and I also include about how big they get. Now, another factor besides the genetics of the plant that determines how big your plants get, obviously, is the environment that you grow it in. So there are many important things to know in order to reach the true potential in size. So let's get into that. Let's talk a little bit about the care of Coleus. Like I mentioned, you can grow them in the ground, but I prefer to grow them in pots. I find that they grow faster because you can control its environment much better and provide better soil in general. So what I like to do when I first plant my Coleus, and these were, just a few inches tall when I planted them at the beginning of the season. Probably this was sometime in May, and we are sitting in mid-August right now as I'm shooting this video. I like to mix in some slow-release fertilizer. I use Osmocote at the time of planting. Just follow the directions on the label as far as the amount to use. And then what we need to remember when growing any plants in pots, particularly things like Coleus and any of our beautiful annuals that we like to grow in the summertime in our pots, they require a lot of fertilizer. Why is that? If you think about it, we're constantly watering, especially during the warm and hot months, and all of the nutrients will be leaching out of the soil through the drainage hole in your pot through repeated watering. And so because of this, we have to regularly fertilize. So what I like to do, in addition to the Osmocote that I add in the beginning of the season, and it says on the label that it lasts for several months, but I add more, I actually fertilize all my pots weekly. If you like to use organic products, you can use a fish emulsion and kelp fertilizer. It's a little bit stinky, so I only recommend using those outside. They're wonderful for plants like Coleus. You can also use just plain old Miracle-Gro. That'll do the job really well, and your plants will get monstrous. Now, as far as planting Coleus, as far as the timing goes, these plants do not like the cold. So if you think you're getting a head start by planting when it's still cold, you're wrong. These are very, very tender plants, and I would recommend waiting until nighttime temperatures are consistently at least 50 degrees Fahrenheit at night or higher. Otherwise, your plants are going to be stunted or even die if it gets too cold. As far as soil goes for your pots, I've used Pro Mix to just plain old Miracle-Gro potting mix to grow these plants outdoors. You can add a little bit of perlite if you want, but if you're just growing them outdoors, you can use it straight out of the bag. I did experiment this year actually with the moisture control Miracle-Gro potting mix, and it's actually working quite well. It's supposed to control against underwatering and overwatering, and for those of you that have followed me for a long time, you know how I hate the word overwatering, but it's actually worked really well for Coleus. The soil will not dry out nearly as quickly, and it really helps if you live in an area that has really hot, dry summers. I would not recommend that potting mix for every single plant though, so be careful where you use it, especially if you have a very rainy climate. You may want to avoid the moisture control Miracle-Gro potting mix because it can stay a little bit too wet, and not every plant likes that. As far as watering goes, Coleus are very, very thirsty plants. So I would recommend checking the moisture with your finger. Just simply touch the surface of the soil. As soon as it feels dry, go ahead and water. Coleus do not like to go completely dry. And in fact, you'll see them wilt in a pretty dramatic fashion when that happens. And a major factor in growing big, gorgeous, beautiful plants is consistency and care. So if you let your plant repeatedly dry out and become stressed that way, it's really not going to reach its full potential. So even if you provide the right conditions, you have to have consistent good conditions in order to grow gorgeous plants. If you can set your plants in an area that is sheltered from the wind, that would be wonderful, because sometimes the plants can be a little bit delicate. As you can see here, this one broke off, sadly, and the hole is right there. That's where it formed. But you can already see that the lower branches here are actually starting to grow, so this will eventually fill back up. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe below and comment below if you've grown any of the ColorBlaze Coleus, or please share your experiences. I'd love to hear. See you guys next time, and thanks for watching.